not trying to tell you what to think, and maybe I'm an overthinker, but when I hear this phrase that, people in romantic relationships need to feel needed, I ask why. And then I ask, why is that such a hard thing to achieve? You hear this phrase used often in reference to men. People say men specifically in romantic relationships with women need to feel like there is a practical purpose, a practical usefulness for them in the relationship. But I have found that to be true of all kinds of people. We all have a need to feel like we bring something special, something, for all intents and purposes, irreplaceable. I mean, obviously, a lot of the things that we do in other people's lives can be replaced, quote unquote. But, we want to feel like we bring something special in our own special way that person would rather not live without. And I like examining this idea of what people need in relationships, because we all need each other. We live in a society where for so long people have celebrated this idea of American exceptionalism and independence and an individual's ability to go out and conquer the world and conquer their own destiny or create their own destiny. It has obviously trickled into relationships, and we see a lot of, this BS battle of the sexes of men and women going back and forth, going at each other's necks over this idea of independence, because so many women over the course of our recent history have been left to fend for themselves in raising families. And so to armor themselves up against a very harsh world, they developed this overzealous notion that independence was something to celebrate, and it isn't. In a relationship, in a family structure, we all as human beings need one another. I am not a proponent of the idea so much of independence, although I definitely recognize that we all need to be able to fend for ourselves to some extent. But I think that the idea of interdependence is the healthier one that we should all be striving for. I think that, on the one extreme, you have independence, where a person shuns people and any idea, any sense that they would have a need for the resources or the support of another person. And then you have codependence, where people are essentially feeding on one another because they have not established the fundamental, the basic foundation that an individual needs to function well in the world. Interdependence is in the middle of that. Individuals have certain personality traits and gifts and abilities that they bring to their romantic and other relationships, to their jobs, and they want to feel that they play an essential role. Moms often, express having a need to feel needed in the lives of their children. I have 2 teenagers. I can imagine that at some point when I'm experiencing the empty nest that I will need to adjust. I mean, obviously I'm going to have to adjust in the way that I relate to them and in the way that I show up to meet their needs. They'll still need me as a mother, but they're going to need me in different ways. And I don't know, that might sting a little bit, I have a very good friend who is a fantastic baker. I mean, professional level baker. If there's a birthday or any kind of special event going on, she's the one we're calling. Holidays, all of that. She's the one we're calling for the cakes, cupcakes, tarts, petit fours, and whatnot. Okay. I would never, when I know that she's going to be coming over to the house or that she's going to be participating in any event with us, I'm not going to the store and buying a cake or buying dessert or whatever. I might, bring a little ice cream to go along with it. I might cook the dinner, But I let her bring the dessert because that's what she does. That's her gift. And she has a need to express that because that's who she is. That's what she does. And I wouldn't want to take that away from her. It's confusing to me because here's why. You can walk into this 4-bedroom townhouse and see that I have needs. You know that there's bills coming in the mailbox every month. You know that there is, there's internet, airwaves or floating through the atmosphere at all times. You know that there's a full refrigerator with food that you're helping to consume. There's water running through these pipes. We showering, we drinking water, we're doing all of the watery things every day, all day. Lights is on. Okay. You can see what the needs are. You see that car out in the driveway. The women out here saying that y'all already know full well what they need. She said y'all been in counseling talking about what y'all need for the last 3.5 years. She said that when she get home from work and you already been there and the house is a mess, you know what she need. She said that after y'all been intimate and you go downstairs to get yourself a snack and you come back upstairs and the bedroom door is locked and you hear that distinct buzzing sound coming from behind the door, you know exactly what she need. So, you know what I'm saying? She's saying, are you going to get your soldiers in formation, learn how to keep them in the barracks and deploy them at the proper time? Or are you just going to keep shooting aimlessly? You know what you need. Simply take the initiative to meet the need is all I'm saying. And I'm not just talking about physical or financial needs, right? We know that when we're in a relationship, a romantic relationship, or we're even considering it, we're getting to know a person and we're trying to figure out what our place in their life will be. We all know, at least fundamentally, that there are certain emotional, maybe even spiritual needs that every individual has in a relationship: to feel seen, heard, cared for, to have somebody that they can confide in, to have someone who supports and encourages them in the expression of their creativity, or in their endeavor to become the best person that they can be in their professional endeavors, whatever. We know what these needs are. And according to all of this relationship related media, these articles and books and podcasts and videos and stuff that I have been watching for years now, and according to many of the experiences that I've had and observed in other people's relationships, one particular problem keeps coming up time and time again, especially among men and women. It's this idea that women are constantly talking, constantly nagging, constantly talking about the things that they need, talking about their needs and desires, which are being ignored in relationships. So when I ask the question, what exactly is so confusing about what's needed, the conclusion that I come to is that not all men, right? And not just men. For these people who are confused about what their relationship or what their place in a relationship is to be, who feel shaky or, unsteady, uncertain as to what it is that they can contribute in a person's life. The conclusion that I come to when I ask myself that question is they don't really want to feel needed. They want to be in control. Because it's real easy to walk into a person's life and see what they need. And if they're a talkative person like me, they're going to tell you what they need. Are you listening? Do you really want to be a cornerstone of this person's life? Someone who is going to help to fortify them and encourage them, support them in being the best version of themselves that they can be, as they should be doing for you? Or do you have some sort of complex that you're trying to feed to the point that the fact that this person is competent in meeting their basic needs makes you feel uncomfortable? The fact that They're not gonna blow up your phone, the minute they don't hear from you, in a couple of hours, or the fact that they have a life and things to do, and they've created a stable foundation for themselves in their life to the extent that they don't need to feed on you like a parasite emotionally, financially, or mentally, or in any other way. When you come into a person's life and they are mature and competent and confident enough to meet their own very basic needs, but they still have those complex needs that I believe every human being has to engage with others in ways that go beyond the surface. It's going to challenge you to go beyond the surface. And I think that's what the problem is. I think that oftentimes when people say they need to feel needed in relationships where there are obvious needs, it's not that they don't see what the needs are. It's not that they actually want to meet those needs. They want to have something to hold over that other person. They want to latch on to some weakness in that other person in order to boost their own ego, in order to boost their own sense of power. And that is unfortunately because the relationship paradigm that so many of us are used to is founded upon a sense of, or a desire for, domination and not love. I mean, you think about the marriage construct itself. It can be a beautiful thing among two people who have deconstructed what marriage actually is, what it was designed for originally, and who understand that so many of the dynamics that come about in a marriage, so many of the problems that come about within a marriage, so many of the questions that can come about within a marriage or a long-term relationship are based on a structure of ownership and domination over another person, another human being. If you haven't taken the time to deconstruct that and you waltz into a relationship thinking that you are supposed to be in control of another human being, you're going to have problems. You may feel inadequate. Your ego may feel inadequate. But if you take the time to recognize that a relationship can be so much more dynamic and interesting. I mean, really, this whole domination and control thing is getting pretty boring, y'all. We have got to evolve into some better ideas of how to do this long-term relationship thing if we want to remain and evolve as a species. I mean, the earth may be overpopulated and we might not need to increase our numbers right now, but in a few generations, we're going to need to get this thing going again. And we're going to need to do it in ways that will help us build healthy, reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationships that are not based in a power and domination dynamic. I once had a sneaky link tell me, it would be too much to be in a relationship with you, Joe. I don't think I could do it because you know too much. Can't get nothing past you. A lot of people out here don't want love. They want control. They just want to own somebody. That's why some people choose to live in seclusion or to just deal with animals, because they don't want nothing talking back. They don't want anybody challenging them. The fact that he harbored a core belief system that made him feel that way was exactly the reason why I also could never endeavor to be in a long-term or serious relationship with someone like him. Now, I will be the first to admit that there are some circumstances under which playing around with the idea of domination can be quite insightful and fun. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. I've been reading a good book recently by the late Bell Hooks called Communion. I think the subtitle is The Female Search for Love or something like that. And she basically talks about how typically women or young girls are socialized to pine for love, to hold it up on a pedestal as the ultimate life experience, the culmination of everything else in life. And yet they go out into a world that, the value system is predicated upon power and domination. And that is very much, unfortunately, woven into the relationship structures as well. And she makes the very important point that if we are going to evolve as a species, yeah, the world might be a bit overpopulated right now. We might not need to be fruitful and multiply quite as much as in the quote unquote beginning. And we might be able to get away with not knowing how to get along with one another for a little while. But eventually, in a few generations, when these birth rates keep dropping, we're going to need to do something. We're going to need to figure out how to be in relationship with one another without constantly attempting to consume and control one another. So my suggestion, just my humble opinion, is that if you find yourself in a relationship with someone who makes you feel a little uncomfortable with how competent and confident and resourceful they may be, just stop and think about, ask yourself, are you really listening? Maybe you might need to go back to that person and ask them, what is it that you actually need or want in this relationship? And when they give you the answer, listen, right? Listen. And then do what they ask you to do. Don't ignore the request. Don't minimize the request. Don't make a million excuses for why you haven't met or don't think you can meet the request. Figure out a way, make an effort, negotiate. Relationships are negotiations. Try to find some compromise, some middle ground that will allow you to stretch beyond your comfort zone and do something that you have not done. I can almost guarantee you that the effort will at least be appreciated. And if the person you're with don't appreciate the effort, that's probably not the person you should be with. But I'm just saying, try. Because oftentimes it really is that simple. This is Inanna Joy, sharing a few of the things that I've learned and some things that I'm still learning with you. Thanks for jumping in the joy well with me, where we examine what it means to grow and to live and love through life's joy, pain, sunshine, or rain. In the joy well, you will follow your bliss to your purpose. You will align with your joy and live well. See you soon.